So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. You get back here, BSN Network. This is a BSN Network podcast here today. It is Thursday, January 27th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day. Yesterday, it is in fact January 27th here today, coming off another big night last night in the world of sports. A lot of sports on last night, but very frustrating performances last night for both the basketball teams in the NBA, as the New York Knicks take a brutal loss to the Heat. I mean, just get absolutely demolished, and the Brooklyn Nets as well get absolutely hammered. I mean, just absolutely hammered. The Knicks got absolutely hammered. I apologize. Absolutely hammered against the Heat, and the Nets get lose to the Nuggets as well, and it's frustrating because the Nets started off well. We were playing good, went into halftime with a nice lead. It was like, okay, kind of a newfound energy. The team was playing together, guys battling, guys fighting, guys that usually don't get playing time are going out there and trying to perform, trying to show off their abilities. And it was like, all right, maybe this is the spark that we needed. And yet again, the Nets kind of show you maybe, okay, is this turning? And yet again, we lose. And, you blow it late, allowing, 42 points in the third quarter. I mean, it's just the defense just not, making stops and, transition. And it's just not what we need right now. And to let up 42 points like we did in the third quarter is just can't happen. You can't win a game when the team when you're letting up that many points, and it's super frustrating. It can't happen. It's continuing to happen, and the Nets lose last night 124-118. And look, right? I mean, was it a bad performance by any means? No, I mean, it wasn't terrible. I mean, it wasn't anything that you sign up, you write on and put on the fridge so you remember it. But it was it was gritty. It was, there was definitely some, moments there of, all right, this is, this team's playing with a lot of energy. There's, it was nice. The team they were spreading the ball. Patty Mills was getting involved. Kessler Edwards was doing. Cam Thomas led the team in points. It was like, all right, a little bit of a newfound energy. It was like, instead of it, you saw some different guys playing different roles and get some bigger roles, and Javon Carter was making an impact. And then you just blow it in the third, blow it in the fourth. And when you go into a halftime with a lead like that against a good team like the Nuggets with a possible, back-to-back MVP in Nikola Jokic, and you're able to contain him for the most part, and then you come out in the second half and you saw what happens, it's just, it can't happen. It cannot happen. And on a night-in, night-out basis, when you have, performances like that and you have games where you just cannot do anything, it's frustrating. It's going to be frustrating. And last night was another tough loss for the Brooklyn Nets, 124-118. So they have a day off today. They'll have a much-needed 2 days off today and tomorrow. And then they'll head out to the West Coast for a West Coast trip starting in Golden State on Saturday night, and then ending, I believe, wrapping up in Denver, which is where they ended their end-day homestand here. So they'll start in Golden State, go all the way out throughout the West Coast, and finish it off in Denver, which will be Sunday, February 6th, so the week before the Super Bowl. So a good, long road trip. I believe it's a 6-game road trip starting on Saturday. And look, if we come out of that road trip and we go like 2-4, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly. It's getting uglier, and the Nets need to find a way to turn this thing around before it really starts to be like, okay, where are we going to come playoff times? Where are we going to be? Are we going to be a 6 seed? Are we going to be a 3 seed? Are we going to be we should not have to worry about that, but that's the reality is now we have to, with all the injuries and the issues around James Harden and the rest of the team. So the Nets took a tough loss last night. Tonight, the Knicks as well took a tough loss last night. Blowout. I mean, a terrible loss, a blowout, a complete destruction. Starting lineup gave you nothing. Defense, nothing. Heat started big time, ended strong, finished strong. And it was just another one of those performances for the Knicks. It's a head-scratcher. And both New York basketball teams last night struggled. So tonight, there will be an opportunity for the hockey teams to make it up, as the Islanders are back home. The Islanders are home tonight against the Kings. Rangers are back after the 2-day break against the Blue Jackets in Columbus, who last night got crushed 6-0 and allowed 62 shots on goal by the Calgary Calgary Flames. So 62 shots on goal the Blue Jackets allowed last night, and they allowed 6 of those 62. So it was wild. It was an interesting game. You look at the goalie stat line, and you let up 6 goals, but you saved 56 of them, and it's like, all right, you made 56 saves, but you also let up 6 goals. So kind of an interesting game. Rangers will get Columbus tonight. Columbus is on the back end. The second half of a back-to-back. The Nets are on the front end of a back-to-back. They will play tonight. Then they'll head back home. And tomorrow night at home against the Minnesota Wild, Henrik Lundqvist jersey retirement night. Super pumped up for that. Super excited. I'm hyped. I'm really looking forward to watching that game and looking forward to seeing number 30 up in the rafters for many, many years to come. Alright, so Islanders, Rangers tonight. Both basketball teams, after disappointing performances last night, will have a day off. And, like I said, you got to hope the football or the hockey teams make up some ground tonight. Alrighty, so as for the topics for today's podcast, like I mentioned, it is a regular hour podcast today. We're going to start off with Joe Schoen's press conference. We're going to get to that, give you my takeaways. I watched the press conference. I wrote down some notes, took some takeaways. I don't even know the exact number. It's looking like 3, 6, about 10 notes, about 10. So about 10 takeaways. By the way, I did not mean to do that, but about 10 of them. So I wrote them down. Gonna give you to them. I highlighted the ones that I felt like were eye-popping in terms of, really what kind of he wants to expect and what to expect about this offseason and the team going into next year. And there was a couple other notes, just some basic stuff about, just his overview on where the organization's at, what his plan is. We learned a lot about where they're gonna go, kind of what they're gonna do as an organization yesterday. So I'm gonna give you my takeaways, talk about him, and overall just kind of give you a feel of, now that he's the GM, what do you expect this offseason for the Giants in terms of free agency and obviously the draft? So we'll get to that. I know I want to talk about James Harden, but there was a lot of NFL news today, and that's going to continue into tomorrow. Tomorrow, like I said, is my Football Friday podcast, so I'm going to talk about Big Ben retiring. I plan on talking about that tomorrow. James Harden's going to be pushed back to another day. I don't know exactly when I talk about it. It's kind of something I could talk about at any time. It's not like something I need to talk about right now, right here. These other NFL news, if I talk about it next week, it's late. But today we found out 2 head coaches were hired. So the Broncos made a hiring, and the Chicago Bears, both teams found their new head coaches. So the Broncos came out first, so I was going to talk about it. And then obviously the Broncos came out first. I was going to talk about that, and then the Bears came out second. So Broncos hire Nathaniel Hackett, who was the former Packers offensive coordinator, and the Bears hire Matt Eberflus, the former defensive coordinator for the Colts. So I'm going to get to both of those and really dive deep into the Broncos, because I think the Broncos is interesting, and why specifically the Broncos hiring former Packers offensive coordinator could tell you something, could tell you a big hint as to what the Broncos are trying to get and what the Broncos are trying to achieve this offseason in terms of one specific player and maybe another guy tagging along. You probably know what I'm talking about, but I'll get to that in a second topic. And then we'll finish off the podcast with the New York sports update. You got the Nets and Knicks day off after both of them played last night, so the Nets and Knicks have day offs today, and the Rangers and Islanders are back in action. Islanders at home at UBS Arena against the LA Kings, and the Rangers on the road for a front out of back-to-back tonight against Columbus, and tomorrow night they will be back at home against Minnesota. Alrighty, so a packed podcast today after a short 30-minute video yesterday. Today will be a normal, typical hour, whatever, around their show. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. Alrighty, so yesterday we had Joe Schoen's press conference. A couple days ago, as we all know, Giants made the hiring of Joe Schoen as their new head coach, and yesterday, he officially met the media for the first time, talked about what his plans are with the organization, has an introductory press conference. So I'm going to kind of give my recap. I did this with the Jets. I did this last year with Robert Saleh. I plan on doing it to whoever the Giants hire, whether that's Brian Flores, whether it's Brian Dable, Dan Quinn. There was a report that came out today that he's informed the Cowboys that he intends to retire return. So it's looking like, I don't know how true that is, but it's looking like Dan Quinn might be out of the equation, and now Brian Daboll is the favorite for the Dolphins job. So we're kind of all over the place right now. So the Giants still got, it looks like it's down to Flores and Daboll is really what it comes down to, and maybe some other guys. I know Patrick Graham's interviewing for today. Maybe some other guys on the outside looking in. So when that comes, I'll give you it. But you know how it is. I usually give you the introductory press conference to do some, give you some takeaways. And I know I talked about a lot about, I believe you could pull a lot from an introductory press conference. I know sometimes it's all trying to, make the fan base buy in right then and there. I mean, if you stand up there and you're acting like, you don't know anything about the sport, and maybe you're like, oh yeah, we're going to do this and that. You're not very, maybe you're not very transparent. Fan base is going to tag along you. But if you tell them stuff, tell you your plan, fan base is going to, try to gather around you. Fan base is going to try to, lift you up and try to really believe. So yesterday I thought we actually got a good amount of information, and specifically the one on the quarterback and Daniel Jones. We kind of got an answer, and maybe that's just that yesterday. I mean, they're not going to tell you officially, if that, but they seem to be committed on Daniel Jones. So that was one of the big ones, but there was a lot of other takeaways I took from yesterday. Some of them are kind of not as big. Like the first one kind of just is my, opinion on his personality. And, kind of that kind of stuff. We did learn a lot. I felt like we learned a good amount. I felt like yesterday was kind of one of those things where, he said, what he wanted out of the organization. You can only take so much, but kind of said what he wanted out of the organization, his plan, what he's going to do in the offseason, and all that good stuff. So, with that being said, unplanned, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Unplanned. I did not mean to do this. I just wrote down many takeaways as I can. I watched the interview. As I was watching it, I just put some down in the notes, and I actually came up with an even 10. So, here are my 10 takeaways yesterday from Joe Schoen's introductory press conference. Number one, this is kind of, it might sound corny, might sound a little stupid, a little dumb, but he seems very calm, and he wants to get the best out of his players. So, me just watching him yesterday, he seemed pretty calm. He kind of seemed, like a jolly, happy guy. He just seemed like a guy that ultimately was going to come in here, I feel like, kind of have a loose working environment where, trying to get the best out of his players, just having guys come into the facility, when they're going into games, just try to do his best to just create the best organizational, environment, and overall just really changed the foundation of where the organization's headed. Because under Joe Judge and Dave Gettleman, it was awful. It was terrible. The locker room seemed to be breaking up. It was almost like Joe Judge was trying to, force the players to buy into his plan, which was obviously not working. So I felt yesterday in front of the media, for a guy that was up in Buffalo, small organization, the assistant GM up there, I thought he did pretty well handling it. I thought he seemed very calm. He kind of seemed like a guy that, look, you're going to get answers from him, but at the end of the day, I think it's a lot of it's too of, he's going to try to get the best out of his players. He's going to try to do the best to get this team where they are. And that might sound like very obvious because every coach is going to do that, but just in his interview process and what he, kind of was saying yesterday, he just seemed like a guy that, look, he's going to try his very best to get everything out of these players. Even if it's a lower skill guy, even if it's a guy that's not that highly touted, he's going to try his best to build around all these guys, give all these guys the pieces they need, and ultimately try to build this roster from the ground up. And he seemed calm. I thought he handled the New York media relatively well. I think he definitely was nervous. But for a guy that was up in a small organization in Buffalo as an assistant GM to go to one of the biggest organizations in all of sports and stand up there and do an interview to the New York media, it's a big change. I thought he handled it pretty well. My second takeaway was he wants high character players. And this is similar to what the Jets did with Saleh and Douglas. He wants guys that are going to come in here and be leaders. They're going to be good leaders in the locker room. They're going to be, good leaders out there on the field. They're going to be good on, on the field and off the field. And that's what he said. He wants to, build a team that not only is going to make Giants fans proud of on the field, but also build a team that's going to make them proud off the field. A team that's going to be able to, ultimately win games, but also be good leaders, good people, good citizens, good guys, just high character players that love the game of football, that want to lead, that want to be mentors, that ultimately is going to come in here and change the culture. And that's something the Jets said, Saleh said. They want high character guys. You might not be the most skilled player ever, but if you have high character, if you're buying into what whoever the head coach is and Joe Schoen's preaching, and you believe you're going to come in here and be a leader, they're going to take you. They will take you. They'll sign you. They want high character guys. They want guys that love the game. They want guys that are going to make an impact not only on the field but also off the field, and ultimately really be a likable player for the fan base too. Not a player that's a punching bag. They want high character guys that are going to come in here, be a big part of building the foundation, have good, be good in the locker room, be a mentor, be a leader. That's what he really wants, and he said that yesterday. He wants guys that are high character, guys that are going to be able to, going to be good teammates, right? All that stuff. Because when you're trying to build a foundation, you're trying to build a culture, and you're trying to change the culture that's been busted for so many years, you need those type of guys. So that was, I think, one of the more important takeaways to show you that he really is invested in trying to change this culture. The third takeaway was, I think, the biggest one, and I put it down as the third. This is, I think, the biggest one of them all. Committed to Daniel Jones, wants to build around him. This is kind of what everybody's been wondering, what he would say. Now, do I think, this is why I said, you can only take so much from this. Is he going to stand up there and say Daniel Jones stinks, we're not going to bring it, he's not going to be our quarterback? No, he's not going to do that. Because right then and there, it just goes to show you that he's turning on a player, right? Not going to do that. Even if he feels that way about Daniel Jones, he's not going to stand up there in his first ever press conference in front of the New York media, being the general manager of the New York Football Giants. You're not going to stand up there and bash Daniel Jones. He's also not going to stand up there and praise Daniel Jones and say how good he is and say that he can be a lead and all that. He's not going to do that. He kind of has to take the middle ground. But he did say he intends, and he did say that Daniel Jones, he wants to build around him. He wants to add pieces. He wants to put him in the best situation possible. We've seen organizations try to do this, right? The Jets felt it was Jets last season. Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas made the decision that they didn't want to build around Sam Darnold. They instead wanted to draft Zach Wilson, and they did that. And obviously, we're here, going into year 2, and it's a big year coming up, as we all know. So the Giants are taking the approach of, look, we're going to see what he can do in his 4th year. We're going to build around him. We're going to add pieces. Do I totally agree with this situation? No, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. It's Daniel Jones and the Giants is a very complicated situation, and and for a lot of the people out there that might be bashing the Giants for Daniel Jones, and I was one of those people, and I kind of took a step back and kind of realized the situation the Giants are in. Okay, they're not in good. They're in a very bad cap space situation. So it's not like they can just say bye. Get out of here, Dan. Get out of here, Danny. Leave. Right, get out of here. We don't want you, and then go out and sign one of the high-end, quarterback free agents, or maybe strike a big deal for, one of the big, maybe one of the shocking, make a shocking move or make a big move, because their cap space is terrible. And also the draft this year, quarterbacks is just so many questions. It's like the quarterback draft this year, there's a good chance that the quarterback's not going to be drafted at all in the top 10, which is very rare. Usually the quarterbacks, usually we're talking about 4 quarterbacks going off the board in the first 5 picks. To not have one in the top 10 is pretty wild. So it's kind of in a tough situation. Do you, bring Daniel Jones back, hope that, the coach and, you continue to build around him, can fix him, or do you bring in a new quarterback, but your cap space isn't great, so that quarterback might not be as good as you could get, or do you draft a quarterback in the draft that, is kind of, the draft with quarterbacks is so unpredictable because we don't know much about any of the guys. The guys are all, it's not your usual draft with quarterbacks. So they're kind of in a difficult situation. Now, if I was the Giants, I would still try to, go out and sign maybe a low-cost guy as a stopgap, and then next season, because look, if Daniel Jones plays terrible this year and you want to trade him, you're not getting anything for him. So trade him now where he still has some value, get maybe something in return, and then sign, a veteran that might not be as much, kind of just a low-cost one-year deal just to keep you competitive, and then next season decide to draft a quarterback when you're going to have a guy like Bryce Young in there, and if you get a high-end pick, he could be, the quarterback of the future. They're in a difficult situation. So it's looking like right now, unless if they bring in the head coach and they bring in, they bring in the head coach and, he hires all of his people and they're looking at the film, unless if they see something in any other quarterbacks, it looks like Daniel Jones, they're going to they're committed to him, and it looks like, Joe Schoen, which he preached a lot yesterday, he's going to build around him. He's going to try to put all the best pieces in place to make Daniel Jones the best possible quarterback he can be. And look, the reality is Daniel Jones has been in a terrible situation. If you put the pieces around him, he can be the guy. We'll see. I just don't know if it's going to turn to a Dan Darnold situation where he's gotten into so many bad habits he just can't get out of it. We'll see. But he does seem to be committed to Daniel Jones and wants to build around him. This is kind of an organizational thing, but it looks like they're not going to change the structure of the organization. The Jets did this last year where Joe Douglas and Saleh are making mainly the decisions. Woody Johnson and Christopher Johnson are kind of just sitting back and hoping they make the right decisions. In the past, it used to be the other way around, and the whole communication aspect is a little bit different. It still looks like Mara is going to try to, still looks like Mara's got his power. It still looks like Mara's going to make, still looks like Mara's going to be heavily involved in a lot of the coaching conversation, a lot of the player conversation, a lot of the offseason conversations, which if you're a Giants fan, you can't be too thrilled about that. But ultimately, if it comes down to Joe Schoen or Chris Mara, I think the Giants have to go with Joe Schoen, in terms of making a decision. And that ultimately is what's going to happen, but I think Mara still will have a big-time say in, the organization, what moves are made, who's hired, right? He said yesterday the coach that he hires wants to be able to have the same vision, and they, have to be in lockstep and have to have that same vision in lockstep. So, they can work well together and they can truly change the culture and build a new foundation for the franchise going forward. So it doesn't look like they're changing the structure. He did just say that publicly, though. Who knows, internally, he could be the main guy making all the decisions. He just won't say that publicly because, number one, first day on his job. Number two, it could just be one of those things, the Giants don't really need to reveal that all. Some things that go within the organization we'll never hear about. So what we heard, they're not changing the structure in the organization, but who knows how long that might last. Joe Schoen said yesterday, too, another takeaway here, he seems very, very sold on trying to work with what he got. Won't tear up the roster, wants to work with the pieces in place, plus going to add on. Okay? Not going to tear this thing up. Not going to blow it all up, restart. So for a lot of the Giants fans out there, and for me in particular, making the offseason predictions, it's not looking like he's going to trade everyone, get rid of everyone, release everyone, and blow it all up. It looks like he's going to try to take more of the approach of, let's work with what we got, let's build on, let's add pieces, and, try to make this roster from a 4-win team into a much more competitive and try, obviously you want him ultimately to win championships. That's what he's kind of going at. Which is almost, in a way, what the Bills did. Because when the Bills drafted Josh Allen, they didn't really blow everything up. They kind of just tried to add on. Josh Allen, through his first 2 years, was started to add on Diggs. And, add all the other pieces on defense and stuff. And, Josh Allen's in the mix, right? And now you look at them. So he's going to take that approach. Right now, it might look like the roster's in shambles. Sure, is he still going to probably make some moves where he's going to get rid of guys, maybe make some trades and all that stuff and not re-sign some guys? Yeah. But he's not going to do a wholesale change and blow it all up, bring in a ton of rookies and restart. He's also not going to blow it all up and say, let's bring in a bunch of these high-priced guys. Let's create a super team and try to win a Super Bowl this year. He's going to work with what he's got, and he's also going to add on. So it doesn't look like he's a wholesale change guy. It does look like he's a guy that wants to work with what he's got, sees some potential in this roster, and is going to build and add on. So I thought that was a big thing, especially to see what the Giants might look at this offseason. And I think that, committing to Daniel Jones is big because if you want to blow it all up and you want to restart, getting rid of the quarterback would be big. So in terms of blowing it all up, I don't think you're going to see Barkley get traded. Daniel Jones is going to return, right? All those guys. I don't think you're going to see any major changes from this roster. You're going to see a couple add-ons, but ultimately, if you can get the right system and stuff in here, this roster might be able to thrive, than it was under Pat Shurmur and recent, Shurmur and Judge and McAdoo and recent, regimes. So won't tear up the roster, but wants to work with what's in place and add on. I don't want to call this his motto, but he kind of said, this is a quote here. He said, compete today, build for tomorrow. So this kind of piggybacks and kind of adds on to the thing of won't tear up the roster. He wants to compete. He doesn't want to blow it all up and have to go through a 4-win season and say, okay, this is our year. Jets took that approach. Every team's different, right? Jets took the approach of restart. Get rid of the quarterback, get rid of all the high-priced guys, bring in rookies, give them playing time, restart. This year now, they're going to start to really add on, and eventually you hope that translates into bigger and bigger and better things, right? That's the approach the Jets took. Giants, on the other hand, is compete today, build for tomorrow. So they're not going to blow it all up, have a 4-win season, and say, okay, now we're going to compete and really, really try and win. We're going to work with what we got, which we believe can compete. We're going to compete. We're going to try our best to win games, but we're also going to bring in young pieces. We're going to bring in young assets. We're going to bring in pieces and assets and sign players that we believe will be not only crucial right now, but for the future. And I thought that was kind of a big saying that, a big quote, a big plan in place. Like, he's not going to blow it all up. He's not going to restart it all. He's going to work with what he's got. He's going to build. He's also going to bring in pieces that can help them compete today. He's also going to, try to acquire draft capital and be good in the draft and, get young players, bring in young assets, bring in guys that not only can compete today and, keep this team afloat, but also have, a team with a bright future. So it's not like a 2 to 3 year stint of excellence and then nothing after that. He's going to try to, progressively continue to build onto the roster. He said offensive line's a huge priority. So in terms of the whole committing to Daniel Jones and wanting to build around him, he seems like a guy that definitely needs to build this offensive line. And without a doubt, the offensive line needs to be a huge priority. No doubt. You cannot possibly go another year with this offensive line being in shambles like it is and, having to endure another season of, Daniel Jones running, for his life every other play. So he says that, they need to address the offensive line, something that we all know it. He made it clear yesterday. They're going to address the offensive line. They need to address the offensive line. And offensive line, I don't know if it's the top priority, but it's definitely up there on his list of what he needs to do this offseason in terms of trying to make this roster better and win more football games. Another takeaway was wants to play young players. So like I said, the whole compete for today, build for tomorrow. He's gonna work with what he's got, but he's also gonna want to play the young guys. He's gonna want to draft a lot of young guys. He's gonna want to utilize the young players. He's not just gonna bring in a bunch of veterans and say, "Oh, hope this works." No, he's gonna mix it up. He's gonna bring in guys that he believes can compete, and gonna bring in he's gonna try to build a competent roster and also a roster that's progressively over time gonna continue to get better and better and better, and ultimately get to that ultimate goal. So playing the young guys is, what the Bills did, right? Playing a lot of, they were a young team. Now they continue to progress and continue to build, and they add a couple pieces here and there. And look where the Bills are at. Obviously they lost, but they made the playoffs, 4 of the last 5 years or whatever, right? Something like that. And, you look at where the Bills are at, and they're in a situation where they're one of the best teams in the NFL, and Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And a big part of that was playing the young guys, developing them, offensive line, all that stuff. A lot, like I said, the whole plan here, I feel like is going to be similar to what the Bills kind of did. I'm not saying it's going to replicate the Bills' success, because I'm not saying Joe Shane's going to be Brandon Beane and be the greatest, be one of the best GMs in the league, but he's going to take a lot of what Buffalo did and try to implement it to the New York Giants. He stressed a lot yesterday, and he kept on saying it. Draft. He looks like a guy similar to the Bills that wants to, bring in guys that are going to be bringing guys through the draft. He doesn't seem like a GM that's going to go out for all these high-priced free agents and spend a ton of money. He's going to trust his scouting department. He's going to trust, what he sees with his eyes. He's going to ultimately trust what he sees on tape and what he sees in these guys, and he's going to draft. He wants to draft. He kept on speaking about the 11 picks that they have this year in the draft. He seems like he wants to acquire a lot of talent in the draft. Draft's going to be a heavy focus, and that's big because when you look at the kind of offseason layout, He seems like he's going to be a guy that's going to want to draft and bring in a talent, bring in a lot of young talent, and bring in guys that are going to be able to help to build his future, build his organization in the future, right? He doesn't seem like a guy that's going to try to, get this, finish this thing up in 1 year. So drafting is definitely something that he wants to make sure is a collaborative effort, or not a collaborative effort. Something that's my next thing. Drafting definitely something that needs to be addressed, because the Giants have been terrible at drafting. And I believe that, I don't want to speculate, but I believe that one of the reasons that they hired Joe Schoen is because the Bills drafted so well. Brandon Beane drafted a lot of underrated guys that have come out to be these big time players. And, Joe Schoen's going to take that same approach. The Giants have been one of the worst drafting teams in recent memory. They've been awful, terrible, just brutal. They've been terrible. So bringing a GM that can draft well can completely change things. So needs to draft well. And I also think he was kind of speaking about what the organization has been doing. The organization has been terrible at drafting. So drafting well is definitely something that they needed to do. And then finally, collaborative effort for head coach. And look, this kind of goes back to not changing the structure of the organization. This goes back to the whole family thing and John Mara. Look, at the end of the day, this is it. If you are in lockstep with Joe Schoen and Joe Schoen likes you and all that stuff, they're going to hire the guy. I think it is a collaborative effort. I think Mara will have a say, definitely. But at the end of the day, if you want to coach, if you want to build a new foundation, you want to build an organization that's going to win, something that the Giants haven't done in a long time, right? It's been 6-7 years of brutal, 6-7 years of garbage football, to be honest with you. If you want to get back to the glory days, you want to get back to winning Super Bowls, you need to have a GM and a head coach that works in lockstep. So if it is in fact a collaborative effort, good. But Joe Schoen needs to have the final say. If Joe Schoen likes Brian Flores and maybe John Mara isn't high on him, Brian Flores should be the coach. If Joe Schoen doesn't like Brian Flores and maybe John Mara loves Brian Flores, you explore other options, right? Because at the end of the day, who's going to be working together the most? It's going to be the GM and the coach. If they can't work together well and they can't mesh together well because Mara likes the guy and the GM doesn't, you're going to just set yourself back. So if it could be, I'm okay with it being, fine, have a collaborative effort, good. But at the end of the day, if Joe Schoen isn't making the final decision, this organization is not going to see a turnaround. It's just going to see the same garbage for another 2 to 3 years. So, okay, good. It's a collaborative effort for head coach. And like I said, it was his press conference. It was introductory. Introductory. I'm not even going to say that word. It was an introductory press conference. So, he's not going to say, oh, yeah, I'm making all the decisions. I'm doing this. I don't care what anybody else says. I'm making my own decisions. He's not going to stand up there and say that. He's also not going to say John Mara has all the power and he's just going to tell me what to do. He's going to have to stand somewhere in the middle. So, it seems like it's going to be a collaborative effort on the head coach. But, at the end of the day, if it is, you still need to have Joe Schoen as the final say. Because if you want to build an organization that's going to be successful for years to come, the GM and the head coach are the two most crucial parts. And then all the other pieces will file in and fill in as you go. So we'll see how it goes, but those are my takeaways from Joe Schoen's press conference. I know you can say that about a lot of guys, and I know Giants fans are saying this. And I know I was listening to, I listened to other shows. Boomer and Gio this morning, mentioned it too. Boomer and Gio, love the show. Sports talk show on CBS Sports Network if you want to check it out. I was listening to them this morning and, and was watching them today. And it was like, they were even saying, like, John Mara standing up there yesterday. Not that you could, not it was in the tone of his voice, but you could just tell kind of by his body language. And I think too with Steve Tisch and all that being there, it's like the Giants are tired of doing this. They're tired of having all these introductory press conferences and tired of, having, guys stand up there and say why they believe. And you want to know why? Because it's been garbage. They're tired of doing it. Because if you're doing it too many times, it means something's wrong. So, you could tell Mara standing up there yesterday is tired of it. He's tired of, having all these press conferences and holding all these things year in and year out and no progress being made. And that's not good. So, you got to hope that this is it. And, it all, ties back to the whole Joe Schoen needs to take this and run with it. You need to give the power to Joe Schoen. He needs to make the decisions. He needs to have the final say. He needs to hire his people, and his people hire their people. Okay, if that makes sense, right? That's what needs to happen. Mara can't have control. Mara can't hire the coach. Mara can't hire all the assistants. You can't do that. That's not how it's going to work. That's how you fail. You need to hire the people that you trust and you believe in, and Joe Schoen needs to take control of that. And John Mara standing up there yesterday, it's clear. They're tired of doing this. When you keep doing this every 2 years, there's something wrong. So if you're a Giants fan today, look, and I keep saying it, you can only take so much. But if you're a Giant fan and John Mara and all, everybody within the Giants organization, you just got to hope that this is the answer. You just got to hope that this is what's going to turn this organization around. Because for an organization that was once so good and now at the bottom of the league, just one of the laughing stocks of the league now, you got to hope that Joe Schoen turns it around. And, he was in Buffalo for 5 years. So he knows what it takes. It's just a matter of, can he do it in a bigger role? He knows what it takes. He knows what Buffalo did. He knows that. But can now he do it, and can he make all the decisions? We'll see. And I thought yesterday he said a lot of good things. I thought, I really do think there's a vision. It's just a matter of, can they execute that? And you got to hope that John Mara and Steve Tisch and the ownership doesn't get in the way of it. We'll see. So that's what I got for Joe Schoen's press conference. I would just like to end it on this too. If you're a Giant fan, Giants fans, you should feel pretty good about yourself. You should feel pretty good about where the team's headed. Feel a whole lot better where the team's headed now than you should. You bring in a legitimate GM. I should take that back because you did bring in a legitimate GM and Dave Gettleman from the Panthers, but you bring in a guy that, I think realizes what this organization has went through, and now you got to bring in a legitimate head coach. None of this, let's hire this guy just because, we like him. No, hire the guy that's going to do the best to this roster. Who's going to get the most out of this roster? We'll find out. So all that's left now is for the New York Giants to hire their head coach, and Joe Schoen's first 2 weeks or whatever, first week as Giant GM is officially in the books, as he has his press conference yesterday. And 4-13, it's got to be better if you're the New York Giants, and we'll see how things play out with the whole head coach search and everything like that. All right, so that's what I got for Joe Schoen in the press conference as yesterday. Coming up next here, I assume the Giants will make their head coach hiring soon, eventually. I'd say sometime next week. If not sometime this week, definitely next week. I don't think this thing can leak much into February. This isn't going to be something I think it's going to take another month to do. They're going to get their head coach in here soon, and they need to. When you hire a new GM and you hire a new coach, you need to get working together. You need to hire the assistants right away. It can't be none of this. It can't be none of this. Let's wait and see. No. You got to hire your people quickly, bring them in, and start building something as quick as possible. So we'll see how that all goes. But NFL head coaching updates. I was originally just going to talk about Nathaniel Hackett getting the head coach from Denver, but then we got another update that forget his name. Colts defensive coordinator. Keep forgetting these guys' names, and I look at them so many times. Matt Eberflus, that's it. Matt Eberflus is the new head coach of the Denver Broncos. So I'm going to talk about both these hirings, start with the Broncos, then get to the Bears. And I want to say one specific thing. I'm going to tell you why the coaching hire of Nathaniel Hackett for the Denver Broncos could be a huge sign of where a specific player could be headed in the offseason. We'll get to that and much more coming up next. Alright, so welcome you back here up at the podcast here today. So we got 2 head coaching hirings today. So obviously all the firings happened a couple weeks ago, and it's now about this time of year where we get the 2 head coach hirings, or get all the head coaching hirings. And there's a lot of vacancies open. There's a lot of them open. Raiders are open. Bears and Broncos are no longer open. Giants open. Jaguars open. Dolphins open. There's more. Texans open. Let me see if I can name them all off the top of my head. That's all I can name right now. Who else is open? Is there Jaguars? So it's the Giants, Dolphins, Jaguars, Texans, Raiders, Broncos are now closed. I believe that's it, right? Because it was also the Broncos and the Bears. I might be missing one. Forgive me if I'm missing one. I probably am. I don't even know it. But those are the openings right now that I can recall. Other than that, I don't really. Let me go through. I'm gonna try to go through. Let me see. So in the NFL, either way, I'm not gonna do it. Dolphins are open. The Jaguars, Texans are both still open. Raiders are open. Broncos are now closed. Bears are now closed. Giants are still open. Vikings, that's another one, still open. Dolphins, like I said, still open. NFC South, there's nobody. NFC West, nobody. So, although a ton of rumors around the Seahawks, but nothing has happened there just yet. So, two of the teams that are out. Ton of head coach vacancies this offseason, but the two teams that are now out of the equation are the Denver Broncos and the Chicago Bears. Today it was announced that former Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett is going to be the new coach of the Broncos, and defensive coordinator from the Colts, Matt Eberflus, is going to be the new head coach for the Chicago Bears. So two guys that, put out for interviews. They were in it. Obviously both teams saw enough in them, and both were hired. So we're going to start off with the Broncos, talk about it. I really want to talk about the Broncos and get deep into what this hiring means. I'm going to get to the Bears maybe on a little bit of a lesser level, maybe only a couple minutes about it. Nothing against the Bears or Matt Eberflus, but I think this Broncos hiring is a little bit more intriguing in terms of what it could mean for the offseason and what it could mean for a specific player, and specifically Aaron Rodgers' his future in the NFL and where he might be playing. And the report came out today, Broncos to hire Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett as head coach to replace Vic Fangio. And like I said, Dan Quinn was in there as an interview, a ton of other coaches, I don't really remember, but a ton of guys were in there. And Nathaniel Hackett obviously is the guy that is going to be hired, and he is hired as the new Broncos head coach. And look, Broncos are in a similar situations like a lot of other teams out there. You had your glory days of, winning and all that. You had Elway, and then you had Peyton Manning and the Super Bowl. And since that, they have not been the same. It's similar to the Giants, right? Giants were, once all the way up there. Broncos were once there, and now they're kind of like, they're just not the same. They haven't been the same. They need to really bring in somebody to restructure the organization and get this organization back to what it once was. And same thing with the Giants. You go to all these different teams, right? You go to, all of the different teams. The Bears, too. The Bears, back then, right? They were really good, and they haven't been that good. And, most recently, though, they did get to the wild card game and stuff, and they had some good seasons, and they haven't been that way in a really long time. So they need to get back to that instead of winning just a couple games a year. But the Broncos, ever since that Super Bowl, they've been, apart. And ever since that Super Bowl, they haven't had a quarterback. They haven't found their coach. They advanced, Vance Joseph never was the guy. Then you brought in Vic Fangio, never was the guy. So you brought in all these different coaches. You brought in the two guys, and it never worked out. It hasn't worked out. It's been, so many different quarterbacks: Teddy Bridgewater, Joe Flacco, Drew Lock, Brock Osweiler, Paxton Lynch. All of these different quarterbacks they tried to bring in, and none of them have worked. None of them have filled the shoes of Peyton Manning. None of them have gotten them to the level of making the playoffs again, making a deep run, and ultimately getting back to a championship level team. Some people bought in early in the year when they beat the Giants week 1, Jets week 3, and I believe the Texans was week 2. When they started out 3-0, when they beat those three terrible teams, everybody bought in of, this Broncos team might be back. Watch out, Denver Broncos might be back. Come to find out, clearly they weren't back. They finished 6-11 this year, or 5-12, something like that. I don't exactly know exactly, but it was something like that. Vic Fangio went 19-30 in his time in his 3 seasons with the Denver Broncos. So 11 games below 500. The defense was good. Offense could never find it, and that's been the big thing with the Broncos. Is their offense. Their defense has always been the strength. Even you go back to the Super Bowl 50 against the Panthers, Peyton Manning's last Super Bowl. That season, although you got to give credit to Peyton Manning to still playing at a level he was playing, at his age, that season it was never their offense. That season it was never, it was never Peyton Manning throwing for all these touchdowns and carrying the defense. It was Von Miller winning the Super Bowl MVP. It was Von Miller, one of the best players in the league. It was Von Miller making the plays in the Super Bowl. And that's been this case the past couple years. But they had an offense that was good enough to win them games. They had an offense that was good enough to defeat the Carolina Panthers, who many people thought could be unbeaten by the middle of the season and even going into the Super Bowl. I predicted the Panthers to win that Super Bowl. I thought for sure they would. They didn't. Getting, strip sacking Cam Newton and making all these plays, making Cam Newton look like a rookie out there on, Super Bowl 50, right? That's what the Broncos defense did. And the Broncos defense has been good. It's still been good. Even with the trade of Von Miller earlier in the season, they were still able. They got some nice young pieces, and Justin Simmons, leading that core of that defense. And it's always been good. So the whole hiring of Vic Fangio and all that never really worked out because he was a defensive-minded coach. Why I think the Broncos finally got it right as head coach is because they're bringing in an offensive mind. They're bringing in a guy that worked with Aaron Rodgers. They're bringing in a guy that has been within the Packers organization and has really been a big part of one of the best offenses in the league. And they're bringing in a guy that just might be able to lure in Aaron Rodgers. And you know who might be coming with Aaron Rodgers? Davante Adams. Because right now, no matter wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, whether it's the Broncos, wherever he might go, it looks like Davante Adams is going with him. And I can assume that Davante Adams is going to want to go with him. Because once Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay is not going to be the same team. Unless if Jordan Love turns out to be this superstar, which, you can't say, we haven't seen him play enough, right? He's played, one regular season game? So he really hasn't played that much. So, calling him a bust isn't fair. Also calling him a superstar isn't fair. It's kind of unknown. He's kind of in that spot of we got to see him play a season. We got to see him get a lot of reps. And then you can really gauge of, are the Packers good enough to win without Aaron Rodgers? And is Jordan Love good enough, to be the quarterback, of the Green Bay Packers for many years on? Is this going to be another Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers handoff? Is that what it's going to be? Who knows? We'll see. But in terms of, the Broncos hiring Nathaniel Hackett, I think this shows a lot of people out there. Not only do they really want to get this offense figured out, because, in all seriousness, the offense has been terrible. It's been awful. It's been brutal. All these different quarterbacks, all these different guys, it's just not good. It hasn't been good. And the offense itself, the receivers, running backs, offense line is not bad. It's been the quarterback. It has been the quarterback. It's been the changing carousel of quarterbacks it seems like every different week there's a guy coming in and playing. I mean, last season they had a practice squad receiver have to step in to play quarterback because they had COVID issues. Their quarterback situation's been a mess, and there's no other way to put it since Peyton Manning left. And a lot of other teams are left in that situation, right? Giants have been in it. Ever since Eli Manning left, Daniel Jones hasn't been that guy. They haven't made the playoffs. They've been one of the worst teams in the league ever since Eli left. Same thing, same situation here in Denver. Ever since Peyton Manning left, their quarterback carousel just continues to get weirder and weirder and weirder every season. So with the hiring of Nathaniel Hackett, I kind of mentioned a little bit ago, but the mysterious player, or the guy that I said earlier in the stream, that I just think might now be lured and might now be on his way to Denver in the coming months, is Aaron Rodgers. And you know who's coming with him? Davante Adams. Aaron Rodgers has spoken very highly of Nathaniel Hackett. He has spoken very highly of, him and, what the Packers offense has done. He's close with him. He's worked with him now for a while. So, and obviously it was successful in Green Bay. It was successful. So you bring in that, you bring in him and you bring in Nathaniel Hackett. And, a guy who, was with Packers in 2019 was under, LaFleur's staff. Obviously worked well with Rodgers through the couple years that he was there. Got to know him. Rodgers has spoke highly of him. And it's like the Broncos are purposely doing this. This is the Broncos saying quietly, we are going all in on Aaron Rodgers. We are going all in on Aaron Rodgers. That's what this is saying. And this is the type of move that has high boom bust potential. The boom is you bring in Aaron Rodgers, he might win you a Super Bowl. The bust is Aaron Rodgers doesn't come to the Packers, and is Nathaniel Hackett really head coach material? Is he really ready to lead a team, to lead an offense without a superstar? I mean, let's be honest here. I like Eric Bieniemy a lot, and the Chiefs' offense has been good for a very long time. It was good. It turned elite when Patrick Mahomes got there. So is Bieniemy ready to turn an offense that an offense that doesn't have Patrick Mahomes into elite? I don't know if he's going to head coaching job, but when he does, we'll find out. So Nathaniel Hackett getting a head coach job now, it's like this is something I think this is just the Broncos' way of saying we're going all in on Aaron Rodgers. The rumors started last season. This year we're going all in. Last year was kind of the year for the Broncos to look at the situation. They're like, all right, we're going to go another year with Vic Fangio. It was terrible. It was bad. It wasn't good. They brought in Teddy Bridgewater kind of as a stopgap. And now look, they bring in Nathaniel Hackett, who gets along with Aaron Rodgers. Both had very good success in Green Bay. This is all just one big pitch to Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams to say, come over here and let's get this thing going at Mile High. Let's turn around the Denver Broncos. Let's turn the Broncos into a Super Bowl contender. And you can do that by bringing in Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. Because look, you look at the Broncos offense, the offense line's good. Running backs are, solid. Javonte Williams and you got Melvin Gordon. That's not bad. Look at the Packers. Aaron Jones and the other A.J. Dillon. Sorry, I was rubbing my head. I was trying to figure out the answer. A.J. Dillon. So Dillon and Aaron Jones. That's your two guys in Green Bay. Nice dual threat. Is it as threatening as Denver? No. I mean, is Denver as threatening as Green Bay? No. I mean, you don't have Aaron Jones. You have Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. A young guy with a lot of potential and a veteran that's still playing at a high level. And you go to receiving core, offense line too. Garrett Bowles leading that offense line, guy that just got a nice extension, has been a staple in the offense line there in Denver for a long time. And then you go to the receiving core, and you look at a guy like, let's just say you do add on Davante Adams. You add on Davante Adams, then you have KJ Hamler, you have Cortland Sutton, you have Jerry Jeudy. If those guys stay healthy, they're really nice ppieces. Then you add Aaron Rodgers into that mix. That's a nice offense you're working with. I could make the argument Aaron Rodgers has better weapons if he joins the Broncos than he does Packers right now. Because Packers right now, Robert Tonyan had a very disappointing year. You have your tight end is a young starring Noah Fant. Lot of nice young pieces on that core of the Broncos. You look at Green Bay and it's like, okay, Davante Adams, Allen Lazard, Valdez-Scantling. I'd take Davante Adams, Jerry Jeudy, and Cortland Sutton over Lazard and Valdez-Scantling. And I also take Noah Fant over Robert Tonyan, who had an awful season, injuries and stuff too, unlike his year last year. And when Rodgers is able to utilize the tight end and utilize the way he utilized Tonyan last year, he won the MVP. You see how dominant it could be. You'd have a really nice offense if you had Rodgers. So to be honest with you, is Rodgers going to go to the Packers or go to the Broncos? He's already on the Packers. Is he going to go to the Broncos? I still don't know. Right now, do I think his chances of going to right now out of any other NFL team, if he is going to leave the Packers, if Aaron Rodgers does decide to leave the Packers, because I don't even know for sure if he's going to leave the Packers. If he does leave the Packers, right now, which team would I label the favorite? It is the Broncos. Is he going to go there? Who knows? But if he would to leave the Packers, and he would to say, look, I'm done, I'm going to leave, then I do truly think he would move on, and I think the Broncos automatically have to be the favorite. And truly, I think the Broncos are hiring Nathaniel Hackett and bringing him in because they want to go all out for Rodgers. They want to get this thing turned around. They want to win another championship. They want to get back to being the team that they once were. And that was, again, another team that was always up there in the NFL, always up there in the NFC. Right? That's what they want. They also want to compete in an AFC East, AFC West that is getting better and better each year. You already have the Chiefs in it. You have the Raiders that there is still some questions, but they got to the playoffs. You have the Chargers that got such a bright future with Justin Herbert. Broncos feeling the need now, kind of feeling the urgency. Look, our division's getting a whole lot better. We need to as well. So I believe this hire is a big pitch and a big holler over to Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay saying, we got your OC, we got money, we want to spend it, let's get this thing rolling. And let's go all out for Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. And I think this is the Broncos' first step in that process. So Broncos to hire Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett as head coach to replace Vic Fangio. The Denver Broncos have reportedly found the coach they hope breaks their 6-year playoff drought. They are finalizing a deal to hire Green Bay Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett as their head coach per Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. ESPN's Adam Schefter also confirmed the news. The position was open after the Broncos announced they fired Vic Fangio following the 2021 campaign. He went 19-30 and finished with a losing record in each of his 3 seasons at the helm. General Manager George Patton will have full authority to select the next head coach of the Broncos. President CEO Joe Ellis at the time. This is his decision and his program. I have complete confidence in George's ability to lead in a successful head coaching search. That search landed on Hackett, and he has a daunting task ahead of him. Denver went 7-10 in 2021 and missed the playoffs for the 6th consecutive year. It's a far cry from the 5 straight AFC West titles from 2011 through 2015, during a stretch that featured 2 Super Bowl appearances and 1 Lombardi trophy. The division largely belongs to the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Broncos have to deal with 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league in Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. What's more, the Las Vegas Raiders were a playoff team this season, leaving Hackett's new squad at the bottom of the standings. That Mahomes and Herbert are in the division makes the quarterback concerns all more pressing in Denver. Gone are the days of John Elway and Peyton Manning winning Super Bowls. The Broncos have turned to players such as Trevor Siemian, Case Keenum, Joe Flacco, Drew Lock, and Teddy Bridgewater under center during the last 6 years. It's not a list of the best signal callers in the NFL, even though Lock was a second-round pick in 2019. Bridgewater, meanwhile, is a solid stopgap quarterback, who can keep teams competitive, even if he isn't the answer as the long-term franchise quarterback to compete with the likes of Mahomes and Herbert. The hope was Locke would be that, but he led the league with 15 interceptions in 2020 and sat behind Bridgewater for much of the 2021 campaign. Denver has a passionate fan base and well-established history of success, but Hackett will have to help find the answer at quarterback and compete in a challenging division that features some of the best players in the league. It's the truth. AFC West, NFC West, 2 very good divisions. The 42-year-old is accustomed to competing at the highest level from his time as the offensive coordinator of the Packers. He helped lead them to the best record in the NFC this season at 13-4. Hackett also has experience as the offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills and Jacksonville Jaguars, but he had held the role in Green Bay since the start of the 2019 campaign. Jaguars reached the AFC Championship game during the 2017 season with him on the staff, and the Packers have been annual Super Bowl contenders with Aaron Rodgers directing Hackett's offense. If the Broncos can replicate that success in the coming years, they should be a force in the AFC under their new coach. Look, if he has the success he had at the former stops, that's huge. And a big part of that was the pieces he had. So if he gets the guys he has, and if they go out and get Rodgers, this thing could flip quickly. The Bears also hired Matt Eberflus as the head coach as well. And just a quick blur on that. In terms of the hiring of Eberflus, look, I think an offensive-minded coach. I think it's big for the Bears to get the offensive coordinator right, because if you get the offensive coordinator wrong, it's going to be an issue. And I mean that in a big way. Like, rookie quarterback in Justin Fields, if you bring in a wrong offensive coordinator, you chose defense, great. But if you bring in the wrong offensive coordinator, that's going to be an issue. That's definitely going to be an issue. So they need to bring in the right offensive coordinator. They need to bring in the guy now that's going to be, that's going to help lead Fields. Because the worst thing you want as a rookie quarterback is to have to go through one system, didn't work, go through another system, maybe that doesn't work, and then have to go through 3 systems in like 4 seasons. So the fact that they hired a defense coach, I have no issue with that. Did very well with the Indianapolis and the Colts there, in Indianapolis as defense coordinator, one of the best defenses in the league. I have no issue with that. What I will say is this just makes the importance of the offense coordinator that much bigger, so they can develop and help Fields and turn Fields into hopefully what they want, Bears fans want, as a franchise quarterback. So we'll see how that all plays out. All right, so as for the let's see here. As for the New York sports update to finish off the podcast here today, tonight we got 2 NBA games on. Not much in the world of the NBA. 2 games on tonight. So got the Lakers and the 76ers. I'll give the 76ers the win, and the Warriors, Timberwolves, give me the Warriors. As for the NHL, good amount of games on tonight. Got the Lightning Devils, I'll give Lightning the win. Canadians Ducks, I'll give Canadians the win. Panthers Golden Knights, I'll give Panthers the win. Senators Hurricanes, give Hurricanes the win. Islanders Kings, I'll give Islanders the win. Penguins Kraken, give Penguins the win. Actually, give me the Kings actually, and the Kings win that one. Penguins Kraken, I'll give Penguins the win. Jets Canucks, give me the Jets. Flames Blues, give me, Flames second half back-to-back scoring 6 goals. Now give me the Blues. And Oilers Predators, I will take the Predators. Rangers also play tonight. Rangers come into this game 28-11-4. Blue Jackets come into this game 18-21-1. The over-under is set at 6 for this game. This game goes on tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. You can find on MSG and Bally Sports Ohio, Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio. And 87% of people in the Rangers will win. I'm going to join those 87% of people. Give me the Rangers. And that sets up tomorrow night will be Henrik Lundqvist's jersey retirement game. As for today in college basketball, got 6 top 25 games. Wisconsin, Nebraska, I'll give Wisconsin the win. Ohio State, Minnesota, give me Ohio State. UCLA, California, I'll give UCLA the win. Purdue, Iowa, give me Purdue. Gonzaga, Loyola, Marymount, give me Gonzaga. And USC, Stanford, I'll take USC. And then fantasy basketball is quick today. I only have one player playing. I got Tyrese Maxey tonight. I'll give you the score. I'm currently winning 635 to 542, and tonight I got Tyrese Maxey. So that's all I got going tonight. With the 2 games on, I only have Tyrese Maxey going tonight in the lineup. So that should be hopefully pretty good. That game's 7:30 Eastern on TNT, and right after that, doubleheader on TNT will be the Warriors, Grizzlies, and Golden State. And the next time Warriors take the court, the Nets will be out on the West Coast. So hopefully tonight, for me, it's a better experience watching my hockey team, which has, been a great experience this season because, the Rangers have been excellent this year. Awesome. 28-11-4, first in the Metropolitan. So that's been great. So hopefully that continues, and hopefully, you get a win tonight. I got to admit, not that this is anything not that I don't want to complain, because the fact that he's getting his jersey retired to begin with is great. Some teams won't have that, but I kind of wish that this wasn't a back-to-back. Sometimes you come out on a back-to-back and you're flat and you're not as good, and losing on Henrik Lundqvist's jersey or losing on anybody's jersey retirement night is never a good look. And it's against a good Wild team too. That's 25-10-3 on the season, and the Wild don't play tonight. They have a day off, so it's kind of unfortunate that it's on the road. Everything's against us. And, Henrik Lundqvist's retirement, I know the Rangers plan that, but you couldn't come up with a better, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me, who knows. But it kind of stinks. You're on the road tonight against Columbus. Then you got to travel home, and you have a game tomorrow night, at home. So you got to travel tonight, back-to-back. A road and then home, or home and away back-to-back is never easy. Because after the game, it's 9:30, 10? You probably don't leave until 11-ish or midnight. You won't get back until early in the morning, and you got to get up. You got to get up and get going, and you got to play a hockey game the next day. So, hopefully they win tonight, and hopefully they win tomorrow night. But I feel like that's a little bit of kind of unfortunate. I know the Rangers playing this, but you kind of wish that Henrik Lundqvist night was on a night where, they were fresh, they were ready to go, but I can't complain. He's getting his jersey up on the rafters tomorrow night. I'm super pumped up for it. Henrik Lundqvist is one of my favorite players in any sport. I really loved watching him. He was actually one of the first players I really ever started to truly like follow a ton. Was Henrik Lundqvist. Got his jersey. A huge Lundqvist fan. I've always been a fan. Still to this day, I'll tell you, he's one of the best goaltenders of all time. Some people say, oh, a little over. No. Look at the numbers. Something I will always say, he's a top 10, top 5 goaltender of all time. No doubt about it. And definitely well-deserved. He's got his jersey up in the rafters. So, that's exciting. But tonight, you got to take care of business in Columbus against the Blue Jackets. Alrighty, so that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Tomorrow will be the Football Friday podcast. I'll get to the 2 game picks, AFC and NFC Championship game, and then as well, I will get to I think I'll talk about Big Ben retiring. I'm still thinking about it, but we'll see how everything goes there. Either Big Ben retiring or I had another topic in mind, but I'll see what I decide to do. So that will do it. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.